we are doing a BookTube Newbie Tag. I asked you guys if you had any questions for me, and boy, the answer was yes, you have a lot of questions. So without any further ado, let's dive into them. Now, as always, I will be linking all the books that I talk about in this video down below for easy reference. So, first question, and a lot of people asked this one, how did you start a YouTube channel? Well, the answer is a bit twofold. The first part is I was looking for my tribe. I was looking for my people. I have this passion for books, I have this passion for reading, and I wanted to talk to people about it, but it's not some topic that you can, whip up during half break of a sports game or at the school's gate. So I needed some people that I could talk books to, and those people are you guys. Now, the other reason is that I tried all of the short form content, social media. I did the Instagram, I did the TikTok, and you can do only so much with 10 seconds, 30 seconds, 1 minute. So from the start on, it was obvious that YouTube with its longer form content was the way to go. And yeah, I guess I'm here to stay. So for our next question, it is where or when did my love for books start and what captured my imagination? I've been a reader for as long as I can remember. And thinking about this question, in fact, one of my earliest active memories I still have is I think I must have been 8 or 9 and I was taken ill. I had the flu, stayed either in bed or lived on the couch with my parents. So someone brought me this book. I still have it. It is a Dutch version of The Mysterious Island by Jules Verne. Not one of his best known books, I guess, but it had everything an 8-year-old boy needed. It had adventure, it had intrigue, it had mystery. It is MacGyver meets the Swiss Robinson family. So it had everything a young boy could want at that time. And I've never been without a book ever since, I guess. I've always kept reading. I still do it today. It's something that I pass to my little son. And it is a wondrous hobby. Then the next question, linking to the previous one, are there any other things I enjoy, any other hobbies? Of course, I'm actually quite an outdoorsy type of person. I love gardening, I love hiking. We are surrounded by nature reserves where we live. Most of the time I can be found somewhere in the forest, in the woods, trekking, foraging, bird watching, all those things. My garden is another big hobby of mine. We grow quite a large portion of all of our vegetables and fruit ourselves. So yeah, I'm quite busy, and sometimes it is a wonder that I still get to read books, really. Next two questions I will combine. It is what do you do if you get into a reading slump, and what are the books that you always go back to? And I'm going to combine these questions because one answers the other. What do I do if I'm in a reading slump? I go back to books that I know I love, books that I will always love, and for me that's Terry Pratchett. I will always go back to the Guard series, in the Discworld series of Terry Pratchett. Those are quick reads, those are easy reads, and I absolutely love them. So it always works. Once I'm stuck or I don't know what to read next or I don't really feel like it, Terry Pratchett always gets me out of a pickle. Next few questions are a lot of favorites, so let's start with favorite genre to read and favorite trope to read. I read a lot of things. I don't necessarily have a favorite genre, but if I'm counting the books here behind me, reorganizing it at the moment, I think the genre that is most present is still fantasy. So I would have to say favorite genre is probably fantasy. Favorite trope is another thing. I don't really love tropes. Tropes for me, and that's my opinion, bring a certain predictability to a book. If you have a trope, you know how the story is going to go. If it is a fake dating trope in romance, you know, oh, they're going on a date, there's some kind of non-romantic reason for it, and they will end up loving each other anyway. So Tropes, I don't really like tropes because they predict the book, they spoil the story a bit for me, so I like to be surprised I like story twists, I like character deaths. Yeah, so no tropes for me, but if I have to pick one genre, it would have to be fantasy. Which is a good thing because someone asked me what are your favorite fantasy books? I've talked endlessly about the Discworld series by Terry Pratchett already, so I'm not going to do that again. If I have to pick another fantasy author, it would be Joe Abercrombie. Joe Abercrombie writes more low fantasy, so less magic, less elves and dwarfs and dragons, but he writes it in a very grim, dark and brutal way. If you thought that Game of Thrones was dark and brutal, then you really have to read Joe Abercrombie's books because they are great stories. He does some great character work, but don't get attached to the characters. That's all I'm saying. Favorite book series? Again, I have talked about Discworld already, so not going to do that, but it is probably my most favorite book series. Another one that springs to mind, it is a finished series, is the Nightside series by Simon Green, which is a strange combination between sci-fi and fantasy and pulp, and it is a lot. It is strange, but I absolutely adore it. Another older series that I absolutely loved, and we're back to fantasy again, is the Belgariad series by David Eddings. It is quintessential high fantasy, like you know, your Lord of the Rings type fantasy, but it is a really good series, I guess, for younger readers as well. There is an excellent main story arc, and there are some spin-off books delving deeper into some of the characters' backstory and history as well that are really well done. So yeah, Belgariad series by David Eddings is another one of my most favorite series of all times. Do I have a favorite main character or a character I relate most to? I don't want to answer a Discworld to every question, so I'm not going to say Sam Vimes, but Sam Vimes. During my youth, I would say Aragorn was a big influence. Aragorn kindled that love for the outdoorsy ranger type, loner type of main character. If I wanted to be anyone in Lord of the Rings, it would have been Aragorn, especially the early Aragorn, the Strider Aragorn. I don't necessarily need the elven girlfriend, but hey, if you're offering. Do I have an Autobuy author? And if so, who? Problem is, most of my favorite authors are dead. That's a thing when you read a lot of classics and modern classics. A lot of those authors are already passed away. So I don't think that I have an Autobuy. There are some authors that are on my radar, so to say. I've really been enjoying what R.F. Kuang has been doing the last few years, from the Poppy Wars to Babel, and now Yellowface coming out, and she's one of those authors that keeps reinventing herself, because all of her books were something totally different up till now, and I'm really interested in seeing how she will keep reinventing herself. So if there is anything like an Autobuy author at the moment, I would have to say R.F. Kuang. Favorite book to movie adaptation? That's always a difficult one. I would go with The Great Gatsby. That movie does a lot of things. It captures the story quite well, and it captures the atmosphere, and the ever faster and ever growing speed is really done well in the movie. But it also taps into the modern world a bit, with very modern soundtrack and very modern artists working on that movie. So yeah, I would say The Great Gatsby was quite well done, and I'm going to get shade for this. I can hear you typing in the comments already, but yeah, The Great Gatsby. Worst book you've read so far and favorite book you've read so far. Worst book, two come to mind. There is a Dutch book, a Dutch romantic book called Eline Vere. It is an absolute brick of a book, and I had to read it for my Dutch literature exam. Spoilers, it is horrible. I simply could not finish that book. Now, if they would notice that we had a list of 20 books that we had to read, and if you had not read one of those, that was an automatic fail for your exam and that year. So I went out, rented the movie, which is another 3 hours long. It is a horrible movie, but at least I knew what the story was and what the book was about. And when I entered my literature exam, the first question that I got was, what was the worst book on this list? And I said, I doubted, but I said, yeah, it was Eline Vere. And luckily, my professor said, well, then we're not going to talk about that one. So that was the last that I ever heard or seen of Eline Vere, and I hope I never encounter it again. Best book I've ever read, that's the one question that I was dreading, the one impossible question. I don't have one ultimate favorite. There are so many good books out there. There are so many amazing books in different genres by amazing authors. I could answer with one title and then I would be immediately regretting leaving out another. So I don't know. I don't know what my ultimate favorite book is, but there are a few. Next question, are there any types of books that I consider not worth reading? No, not really, because I think that reading is, in the first place, a hobby. It should be enjoyable. And who am I to judge what you as a reader should enjoy? I mean, I often joke that I don't like Colleen Hoover, and I don't, but if you like Colleen Hoover, good on you. Go out, read her books, have fun with them, I guess. I mean, there are books that I would consider not being for me. I'm not a romance reader, I'm not a spiced book reader. I don't read Colleen Hoover, but I've tried most of those things at least once and then decided, well, this is not for me. But I don't think that there are books that are not worth anyone's time. I mean, you do you, and if you enjoy them, by all means, go for it. Do I have a reading goal for this year? Well, I made an entire video about this one. I stopped setting myself reading goals because, again, like I said in the previous question, reading should be something enjoyable, something you do for fun. And from the moment you start setting yourself goals, it becomes a competition with others, because they have goals as well. And if they read 20 books a year, then there is this urge to read 25 yourself. But it's also a competition with yourself. I read 20 last year, so I want to do better this year. And all of a sudden, it's not about am I enjoying this book anymore. It is about how fast can I get through this book, tick it off the list and go to the next one. So I stopped setting myself reading goals. If there is a reading goal for this year, it is to enjoy books. And so far, and we're half through the year now, I don't think I will be reading less by not setting myself a reading goal. So if you want to hear me talk about that, there is a video about that, but no, I don't set myself reading goals anymore. Do I have a bookish pet peeve? Oh, well, I like my books to be as pristine as the day I got them. And so there are a few things that really break my heart. It's when I see people, opening their books, cracking the spines, just folding pages to mark where they're left off reading, annotating by writing and highlighting in the book itself. No, please don't. Please don't. Next one up, have I read anything by Dostoevsky? And if so, what are my thoughts on it? Yes, I have. I have read The Brothers Karamazov, I have read Crime and Punishment, and The Idiot. I think those are the three I read. It is all suffering, it is all gloom, it is... those are some very, very influential books, and from a literature critical point of view, I can I can say these are very good books. There is lots to say in a technical way about those books, but I don't really wake up in the morning and think, oh, you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to read some Dostoevsky. What was the book that you were reading when you made your first video for this channel, and which book are you reading now? Bonus points, which of the two you like better? I had to do some digging. Goodreads tells me I just finished Babel by R.F. Kuang when I made my first video, so that's also why it is a video about dark academia. The book that I'm reading now, I just finished this graphic novel, Speak, very, very beautiful graphic novel about sexual harassment, about the taboo there is around speaking up and saying something and being the victim of such a crime. Very, very good book. The best of the two is a bit of an unfair comparison because Babel is such a good book. It is one of my all-time favorites. So I would go with Babel, but that doesn't mean that this one isn't very good as well. So for our last question for today, what was a book you didn't think you would like, but you ended up liking? And the other way around, what was a book that you thought you would like a lot and ended up not liking all that much? I think I've said this already on this channel. A pleasant surprise for me was The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Again, I notoriously don't read any romance books. So when a lot of people started recommending this book to me, I was quite skeptical. I thought, oh, this is going to be, one of those romance books and I'm not going to like it. But I ended up liking it quite a lot. I mean, it's not one of my favorite books of all times. And I did like Daisy Jones a bit more than Evelyn Hugo, but it was a good read. It was a good book, which was a very pleasant surprise. And then there is a book that I thought I would like a lot, but ended up even disliking a bit, was Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. This was the book for me. It had all of the references to TV shows, games, books, music, computer games of my youth, and I thought I would love it. But it's not much more than those references. Half an hour in, I thought, yeah, we've had it with the references now. I get it, you're a fan of the 80s. But where's the story? Where's the character development? No, Ready Player One was far from my favorite book and was a bit of a letdown because I thought I would love it and I ended up disliking it. So I would have to go with Ready Player One. So those were your questions and my answers. I hope you found these interesting, and if you have any questions that I didn't answer, or if you want to follow up on one, do let me know down below in the comments and I will answer them there. So that's it for me for this week. Next week we'll be back with more regular book content, and if you need some book recommendations in the meantime, you can always watch here. Bye!